Good evening, listener, and welcome to another edition of Electoral Reform Hour on the network service of Radio Nigeria. Last week on the program, we had the privilege to explore electoral amendments and its impact on elections with Alhaji Hussein Pai and Miss Faith Wadishi. Today's discussion will focus on strengthening internal party democracy and enhancing election transparency. What are the key reforms for Nigeria's electoral system? My name is Engr Yabaji, your anchor. To foster inclusive dialogue among citizens from varied backgrounds concerning electoral reform and constitutional amendment. To also enhance public understanding and awareness regarding electoral reform, and compile and present citizen-derived recommendations to the National Assembly and INEC for amendments for consideration. The program is brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa with the support from Macarthur Foundation. You don't want to miss any edition of this program. Elections have a significant impact on democratic governance in any country. The outcome of an election can lead to changes in government policies, economic conditions, and the overall business environment, which can either support or hinder economic growth. A peaceful and credible election can bring stability and certainty. It can encourage economic growth. Elections are an essential tool of democracy. Strategies for improving the integrity of elections are at the root of democracy, and this is in almost all countries. To develop an equitable, transparent, and a fair electoral process is the foundation for strengthening a healthy democracy. To ensure these features, such as laws governing elections, promoting transparency, accountability, and the professionalization of electoral management, among others, are necessary. Today, joining me in the studio is Engr Yabaji Yusuf Sani, Presidential Candidate of the ADP. Engr Sani began his political journey in 1991 as a founding member of the ANPP and a member of the Board of Trustees of the All Nigerian People's Party. In 1999, Engr Sani was the candidate of the All People's Party in Niger State for the governorship election. Engr Sani was also Financial Secretary of the then Nigeria Liberal Convention and was the North Central Presidential Coordinator of the Yabaji Bashir Tofa campaign in 1993. In 2021, Engr Yabaji Sani of the ADP emerged as the new national chairman of the Interparty IPAC. He was declared as the ADP presidential standard bearer at a special convention of the party on Tuesday, May 31, 2022 in Abuja, Nigeria, after he was screened and confirmed to have all necessary requirements for the 2023 presidential election. Engr Yabaji Sani has a wealth of experience in Nigerian politics and has been a significant figure in advocating for internal party democracy and transparent elections. We're honored to have you, Alhaji Sani.
Thank you very much for having me.
Your journey is interesting. Is it possible you let us into, apart from what you have said, just give us an overview of what it has been like getting to the point where you became the presidential candidate of your party?
Well, I would say that I am an accidental politician, no, because I went into politics with a mission. And the mission is how do we, together with others who share in my views of what politics should be, change the lot of the people of this country. And when I came back from the United States of America after my studies at the Columbia University, I started, of course, I joined NNPC, worked for a while, I resigned, and then formed my own company. And then from there, I now, joined politics. This was during Alhaji Shehu Shagari's time, administration. I was very close to his secretary to the government, Alhaji Shehu Musa, of blessed memory. And from there, like you mentioned, we formed what was called Liberal Convention, and from that transformed and became NRC, and from there, then we became APP, actually, and after APP, they became ANPP. So after ANPP, I think that's when when NAPP now joined and became, by the time they formed the coalition, or the merger, I should call it, with other parties to form APC. I didn't go with them because I had a different, views,
perspective. Yeah.
Yes, about what politics should be, and that's I formed Action Democratic Party. I happen to be the founder of the party, jointly with other people who also shared in my views. People like Alane Bankole, that's Chief Alane Bankole, the father of Dimeji Bankole, who was also national chairman of ANPP, actually, at a time. And we also had people like, the one was the chief whip, of the Senate.
Well, very interesting, very interesting. But what's important is that you're not looking this journey. What has kept you as young as you have remained? Because the trajectory you've explained to us does not.
Well, there's one thing about life. If you can be at peace with yourself, it helps a lot, to keep your health and also help you to maintain a good, proportion of what your physique, and also you hardly get into any those vagaries of politics and things like that.
So let me take you to why we're here. Is about electoral reform. PRN Advocacy and Advancement Center have been touring the country, having trainings with the media and having town hall meetings. We've done 12 states now. In a few days' time, would make up to about 14 or 15. What's your personal experience running for presidency, for the president, and what were your challenges, especially during your presidential campaign, as it affects election integrity? And if you like, you can also talk about reform issues, things that you think needs to be reformed around some of those experiences that you had.
Thank you. I mean, I would like to take it from the formation of Action Democratic Party, because that is that's what gave me the platform to contest for the presidency of this country. And I believe that, I believe that the politics of this country, in your preamble, you talked about the strong nexus between the economy and the politics itself, because you cannot build one without having to, build the other. They go hand in hand. And my background, like I told you, is that I have a very strong views about the economy of this country. I believe that we have very strong fundamentals as far as this country is concerned in terms of our economic makeup. And those strong fundamentals requires people that have knowledge, people that have a very world-class view of what an economy should be as far as how it delivers, for the people of the country. And the only avenue that you can make an economy, to deliver for the people is through the democratic system of governance which we have. So we have a very good, system of government, which is democratic system. But what we haven't gotten is the personnel, the people that will have that prerequisite experience, knowledge, and the foresight, because it has to do with it. A visionary leader must have foresight. You must have a vision as to where you want to take the country to. And where we want to take the country to is what God has already given to this country, which is leadership position. You look at us from the point of view of population, which is one key ingredient that determines your power, even in the equation. I'm talking about the global politics now.
Yes.
How many are you really as a country?
Yeah.
Nigeria, if we are not number 3, as even the projections, have shown.
Yes.
After you talk about China, India, I think the next country that you want to look at is Nigeria. And given our position on the continent of Africa, it means that we need to occupy that position of leadership which God has given to us by way of population, by way of natural resources which God has given to us, by way of the mere size of the country itself, in terms of the land mass and things like that. So we have everything going for us. What is it that standing between us and greatness? It is now the leadership, equation. And I know that having gone through what I went through by way of education, by way of my travels, what I've done in terms of
your political journey,
and I can see myself as in the right kind of leadership that you need for this country, and that is why I went for the number 1, position, because I know that once you are in the driver's seat, you can now be able to actualize all those things that I've mentioned, that this country is a promise of greatness because of the physical things that are available. It's not imaginary.
I've listened to you, and I've paired with you in so many so many panels. So I understand this part.
Yes.
So, but for the purpose of our conversation, what were the challenges, especially at it relates to electoral transparency?
Yes.
And,
challenges,
and what are the reform indications
yes.
that you think we can?
The challenges, are 2. We have 2 challenges in this country. One is the issue of poverty. Our people are largely poor. Number two is ignorance. The fact that the level of, the number of people that have the exposure, even the literacy level and things like that, are so insignificant compared to what we need to have.
How does it affect internal party democracy?
It does affect it from, all ramifications. And I'll tell you, if you have the democracy itself presupposes that you have the intellect, you have the knowledge to be able to determine for yourself what you believe is good for you and for your country. That's what democracy presupposes. It also presupposes that you have the independence, economic independence, to be able to make that decision. So, but those 2 fundamental things are not available to the bulk of the people of this country. So those are the big challenges that I had, and I'm sure except for those who have what you can call state capture, because if you are in government, then unfortunately, because of the way our political system is arranged, whereby the umpire, I'm talking about Electoral Commission,
yes,
is now in the hands of the people in power, because they appoint all the people that are running that agency, that regulatory agency. The leading agency too Unfortunately for us, for what I've told you, the police, which is lead agency, because the INEC cannot do it alone, you need the police. And the police too are at the beck and call of the government, because the government appoints, the IG and all everybody. They appoint everybody. So you come in as an individual without these paraphernalia of power. Definitely, you already have the whole thing stacked against you. What are the things that are the drivers that are driving you? Is the fact that things cannot continue like this, and we believe that. Just like what is happening in other countries today, you might say those countries may not have the two things that I mentioned, which are militating against our progress as a democratic government. That is issue of poverty and ignorance. Look at what happened in UK. You have you have a new government, which is by the left, that is the Labour. France, what is happening? The leftists have come together. It looks like they're going to take the legislature also, and which means perhaps Macron may not come back. We don't know yet, But the exit, polls that we have had. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that things cannot remain the same. It will change, and the only way it can change is it may take just one individual to bring about that change. If there's consistency and there is readiness, to do what is required, then things can change for the better. Because what is happening now is not in the interest of democracy. It's not what democracy says. Democracy says it's about the people.
If I listen to you carefully,
yes.
You've talked about independence of the institutions that are involved in midwifing democracy.
Exactly.
The security agencies, the
yes.
Independent National
yes.
Electoral Commission.
Yes. Yes.
But the political parties and the politicians, their candidates, in my view, and many other people think so, that you contribute 90% of the challenges that these institutions face. What do I mean by that? To corrupt electoral officials, it's the politicians who do that. To subvert the provisioning of election security is also perpetrated by politicians, whether it's violence, whether it's vote rigging, whether it's inducement.
We are saying the same thing. We are saying the same thing, but the difference here is that you are looking at politicians as those opposition, not people in government. When you say politicians, it includes people in government.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about a category,
exactly.
a political category called politicians.
Yes.
Because, for instance, the dominant political party today was opposition yesterday.
Exactly.
So we have also had our own share of opposition becoming position.
Exactly.
And then position becoming opposition.
Yes.
So if that has happened,
yes.
I want to look at the concept in terms of how much are people free within the political parties? How much can they make choices in spite of and the fluidity of movement that you see? Somebody is in your party in the morning, immediately after the presidential election, the person has moved. Are there things that we can do to begin to deal with those challenges that I've talked about?
Grow the economy so that people will now become more affluent than they are now.
Absolutely.
Yes. Grow the economy, because if somebody doesn't have to depend on you for those handouts, pittance that you give them, they'll be able to make their own judgment. They know what they want, but they are so handicapped by way of the system, does not make it possible for them to decide on their own, because the man has not eaten maybe for how many days now.
It still revolves around poverty and
ignorance that I talked about. We now need to grow our economy.
I agree with you.
Yes.
What is your perspective on the recent amendments proposed by members of the legislature, especially Francis Wivey? And I'm asking you this because you are the guys who wear the boots on your so he's talking about having elections in one day and and re-registration for 10 years and all of that. I don't know whether you are conversant with those amendments, Section 60 of the Electoral Act and all the rest of those things.
Yeah.
How feasible do you think those things are?
No, you see, they are feasible. They are feasible in a normal situation where you don't have, like I said before, state capture. You know, I don't see anything wrong with having the election all at the same time in one day. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, because what does it mean? It means that we are talking about how many elections? Presidential, isn't it? The presidential, the governor, the senator, the House of Reps, and the state assembly. 5 people, isn't it?
Yes.
An average person. I mean, the bulk of the Nigerians they can decide what they want to do. You know, but the problem is that the people in power, you know, who have always used the power of the center to now muzzle their way, you know, with other elections that follow. I don't know whether you can be able to convince them to allow that process to happen, because that's what we had before, if you remember, before we get where we are today.
Yeah.
And it was changed for selfish interest, because they believe that once you have won the presidency, it has been announced that
it's the current opposition that changed it.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. So if they want us to have what you can call a free, fair, credible election, then we can have it the same day. By so doing, you wouldn't have what we call bandwagon effect. And they're always capitalizing on that bandwagon effect. They'll make sure they win at the center. And once a party has won, you know, the rest people don't want to waste that. They say, no, whatever happens, let me go to where it's happening. That's where the president is. So it's a good idea as far as I'm concerned. The one that I think may not be necessary or may not even sit well when you are looking at it from the point of view of being fair and then having all-inclusive, elections, like we always say, is the issue of saying that registration to be done, every 10 years. What about those who attain the age of election, that is 18 years? Maybe somebody today is maybe this year is 17. So by next year, the person has become, eligible to vote. And because you have now passed a law that says, no, it's after 10 years that he can register, then you have differentiated.
No, it's a new, what he's talking about is to abandon all of the registrations that have been done.
Yes.
And then have every 10 years, whether you turned 18 a year before the 10th year,
yes,
you come back again for re-registration. For him, the idea is to take away ghost voters, the people who have died, and all of those things.
Yeah,
and
perhaps, but I think if we have a system, like we have beavers now, isn't it?
Yes.
If we allow beavers to work, it will
eliminate
exactly those who are not alive anymore. Because you have to now do your thumb printing, it has to look at your face and make sure that it matches and so the issue is us as individuals. It doesn't have to be that you do it every 10 years or something, because
nobody is better qualified to discuss this, to have this conversation with, than a man whose political journey has reflected what you saw in Senegal, in Liberia, I think also, where you have pictures of candidates being. What is your view? Do you think those kind of things? Because our law is very clear. We don't vote individuals, we vote parties. So in terms of amendment, do you think we need to include photos of people? But you also know that if that can become a problem in terms of litigation, that somebody's picture was omitted, can drag you to Supreme Court. Where do we stand on that?
No, I think Nigeria, like I told you, we are the most populous country. Senegal is about 18 million.
Yes. And Liberia, their voting strength is that of Imo State.
Exactly. So the whole of Senegal is just like Lagos.
Yes.
No more than that. Okay. So you see what works in small areas may not really lend themselves to this big country, which is the biggest, as far as Africa is concerned. So I believe those things we had them before. I think it's because that, like what you rightly said, that chances are that you are going to have somebody's picture who may not look at the person. You may swap the picture. Somebody else's pictures will be there, and then that will lead to the cancellation of the entire elections. But perhaps when we now adopt the full-fledged electronic voting system, then perhaps you can now begin to say, okay, alongside...
You've traveled widely. Where do you have full-fledged electronic system?
Well, it's difficult. I haven't seen, even every place where we mentioned, it's just like an idea that people have. In India, it is still the party symbols that you have there, because, like you rightly said, it makes it neater and easier to manage. And our constitution recognizes only political parties, not the individuals. And even with the party symbols, we still have problems of some party symbols, not appearing on the ballot.
Yeah.
And that always leads to big problems.
Yes, I think we've eliminated that now somehow. You've identified first institutional challenges with the independence of those institutions as part of the reform issues that we have to deal with, and that's going to be legislative and constitutional. That's number one. Number two, you also identified attitudinal issues generally, that there is that part of us that we need to deal with. We need to deal with the issue of ignorance and poverty.
Yeah, and the big elephant too.
Yes, in the room. But
the big elephant is the fact that we still have this primordial sentiments.
But the role of political parties is electoral education. I travel around this country with my colleagues, and what we find is that not even the most enlightened section of the society is conversant with the legal regime with which elections are conducted. And I'm talking about electoral acts.
I understand.
Including the politicians.
I understand.
So, and that leads me to ask the question.
You're right.
Are we doing enough in terms of electoral political education for, first and foremost, our own members, not even outsiders?
I agree with you. And I think the biggest problem is what we have just mentioned. People don't know the law enough to guide them properly, so that they won't commit some unnecessary, mistakes that will lead to being at a disadvantage. Because the Electoral Act itself was, the National Assembly was dilly-dallying with the whole act itself, and when it came out, there were so many gaps, in the Electoral Act. So the clarity, that is the understanding of the law, is very, very important. And who is supposed to do it? INEC, because INEC is given the money, to embark on voter education. Maybe in collaboration with the political parties
who benefits from the voter education?
I think even INEC themselves benefits from it.
No, the political parties, we will come to that. It's still Electoral Reform Hour, and you can be part of this live program by sharing your comments via our social media platforms on X at PACA-NG with the hashtag Electoral Reform Hour. You can leave your questions and comments for us on Facebook via at PACA.NG, and our WhatsApp number 081 6808 3424 081 680 083424. Our phone lines will be open soon. Don't go anywhere.
Are you ready for change? Join Hearing Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA. This program amplifies electoral reform campaigns and provides citizens with opportunity to make meaningful contributions that will strengthen our electoral process. As the National Assembly, INEC, and other stakeholders work towards improving our electoral process, you too can be a part of the decision-making process. Remember, democracy is for the people. Let your voice be heard. This message is brought to you with support from Macarthur Foundation.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
Welcome back. You are listening to Electoral Reform Hour on Capital FM 92.9, and we are pleased to have you on the program. Engineer Yabaji Yusuf Sani, the presidential candidate of the ADP and then former IPAC chairman, national chairman. Good to have you again. So now let's talk about political parties. How can Nigerian political parties develop and adhere to clear ideologies that can resonate with the electorate?
You see, one very important aspect is one you mentioned earlier, issue of understanding the laws themselves. People understanding that it's their civic responsibility to participate in the political activities in their country, because everything about your country depends on the kind of government that you have at the end of the day. You know, how do you recruit your leadership? It's very, very crucial, you know, to everybody's, you know, welfare, you know, the country itself and everything that is about that country. So participating in the process is very, very important for an individual, every individual. And political parties, like you know, they are the cornerstone of democracy, because without political parties, you can't call it democracy, isn't it? You call it something else.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's key that the political parties are run in a manner that will give everybody that fair chance to participate in the process. But what is happening is that politics is not cheap. It's very expensive. And for you to become a member of a political party, it requires you to make certain contributions, you know, both in terms of your time and your resources. You know, for you to become a financial member of the party, you must make contributions so that you can hold the card of the party and you now have the legitimacy to participate in the process. But the problem we're having is that, like we have said, and we're going to repeat ourselves, is that the bulk of our people are poor.
Before I open the phone lines, because you are making, I think you've reinforced this issue of poverty and ignorance sufficiently enough.
Yes.
Before I open the phone lines, let's come to what reforms can you suggest to improve transparency and accountability of party funding to prevent this undue influence?
The issue is this: it's like it's catch-22. You know, we say that we don't want government to finance or to fund political parties, isn't it? So that they can be independent on their own. You know, but the issue is that the people that are going to make it independent, in terms of everybody being treated equally, you know, are not capable. So you now have what you call big bags, you know, that will hijack the process, because they have the way of
incumbency and all of those challenges.
And all the challenges. So this is why now it's up to us to now say, okay, do we now go back to what we used to have, whereby government gives some kind of funding to political parties' activities, you know, or do we allow the system to maybe?
So what's your view? Because that's part of what we are harvesting. We want to know what you think could be, I mean, workable in terms of resolving some of the issues, especially the abuses. Because you've come a long way, you also know the abuses that happened when that was liberalized, when parties were being funded from state funds.
Exactly, I understand. That's why I say it's catch-22. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that the only other way is to perhaps, you know, try to see how we can reinforce the laws that we have against use of money, you know, in politics.
You can now join the conversation by calling 091 509 10482. 091 509 10482. 091 509 104 8483. You can also leave questions and comments for us on WhatsApp at 081 680 83424 and on X at Packer.
Hello, good evening.
Facebook. Yes, good evening, listener.
Good evening. Thank you for a wonderful program.
Can I meet you?
My name is Danjuma Dari. I'm calling from Bida, Niger State.
Danjuma Dari from Bida, Niger State.
Good evening. Our father, Engineer Yabaji.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine. We enjoy these programs, and as you are speaking, yes, it's true. Nigeria needs person like you. If to say Nigeria, our president call you, sitting with you, need your advice. If you give the advice, part of that rule, people cannot suffer as we are under hardship. And I use this opportunity to call our president to call you and sit with you, get your advice, and keep trying. Inshallah, one day you'll be a Nigeria president by grace of God. Thank you. That's my little contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good one for you. I'm sure you will give you a new voice later.
Yes. I'm gladly.
At Packer AG, our Facebook is Packer, and you can join us right now. This program is for you. It's our own, modest contribution to getting your views about electoral reform. Call us on 091 509 10482. 091 509 10483.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
My name is Isaiah, calling from Abuja.
Oh, Isaiah, how are you?
Very well. My question today is actually pertaining to just something you talked about, and then so the other day we were looking at the website of the current political party that is leading in the country, and then we found out that on the part that states their vision and mission, that there is nothing pertaining to a particular vision that holds the party together. And then it's beginning to look like in our political party system that most political parties are just a conduit fight for leadership positions, which is not what we see in other clients in other countries. And it's beginning to look like it's not an avenue to really build leadership, rather just to get a position and then move. And then this, I think in my own opinion, that this is what also begins to bet the cross-carpeting that happens within political parties, which in turn begins to undervalue the need for electorates to put their votes on political leaders, because it's an abuse of their votes. And I think that I'd like to hear what the guests in the house today have to say about this. Thank you.
You made any sense of the question?
Yeah, I do. He's talking about the ideology.
Yes.
What is the ideological leaning of most political parties?
Yes.
You see, ideology is very important. Like he has underscored that, that's the only way you can tell, the direction, what is the vision and mission of a political party by the ideology. But in our own climate, like we have said, if you look at what is happening in France today, it's kneeling toward the left, from what is happening. You look at what happened in UK, the ideology is, Labour, which is left, in that environment too. So, but look at these two countries I've mentioned. They are the countries that you can say, as far as the economy of those countries is concerned, they are tremendously, advanced, not like our own situation here. The level of poverty in those countries is not as high as what we have here. The cost of living is so cheap there. Standard of living is very high, So, but that's why people can sit down and talk about ideology. In our own political parties that you have in Nigeria, unfortunately for us, we will get there. But for now, it is what they call the stomach infrastructure kind of thing that people talk about. Unfortunately, no matter what you do, when you talk about ideology, people say, yes, okay, it's a good idea, but I have to take care of it.
No, but already we are running on an ideology.
How?
If you listened to most of the campaigns, apart from a few of you
Yes.
who have a people-centered, idea of governance.
Yes.
We are dealing with market here now. Everything that everybody is talking is about market. It's about the IMF World Bank.
That's mercantile system, but
so it's an ideological position. That's what I'm saying. That's ideological, and so we can't say there is no ideology.
I agree with you, but that's not the kind of ideology you want for a country. Because if something is based only on money,
sell,
yes,
profit,
yes, then where is that the axiomatic and then the essence of?
While we are waiting for the calls, are there specific sections of the current Electoral Act that you believe need amendments to strengthen internal party democracy?
I think the issue of financing
and election transparency.
Yes, financing. If you look at, for instance, the electoral law of America, a lot of it is on how the parties are funded, how the elections are funded. They are very, very strict about it. But in our own case here, even the Electoral Act itself, I think it's section 80 and subsection 8 of the which talks about how much a particular party can spend, and then that one individual cannot give more than 5 million naira, and then that as a candidate presidential, you're not allowed to spend more than 5 billion naira or something like that. But the issue is this: it talks about only the candidate, not aspirants. It talks about the political party, not the supporters groups that you have. So the candidate can say, okay, why he's campaigning, supporters groups are there, so many of them, that he say, well, I don't know them, they are doing their own thing, it's not my money, and I cannot ask them.
So that's just a process of subverting the law. Really.
Subverting the law. So, but which means the law needs to be revisited if you want to really, make the funding, because in our situation, what we must really be very strict about is the influence of money. Why? Because of the level of poverty that we have in the country, so that people don't get unnecessarily compromised in the process. That's one area I think we need to look at in our Electoral Act.
We were with you in Liberia.
Yes.
And yes, we were with you in Liberia.
Yes.
Are there lessons that you think we need to have as we prepare for undo and a do and undo of cycle?
Yes, you see, Liberia is a different kettle of fish, and like you know yourself, you see, given their historical background, where they're coming from, you see that it is just now that I think they are trying to, free themselves from the clutches of America and whatever as far as their politics is concerned. And the people there are very much conscious of their place in the history of their country, and where they are now and where they want to be. Why? Because we're talking about poverty here. It's more endemic there, isn't it? And then we talk about the issue of these primordial sentiments that I talked about. Their own is a different thing, not like our own. So the nationalism, in Liberia is more entrenched.
More feverish now.
Exactly.
Yes.
Then in our own case, unfortunately, in our own case, people are easily,
reclined to their
comfort zone.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they don't feel threatened, so much. But in Liberia case, like yourself, is that we have to build this country. We can't afford to have crisis.
Having bitten by a snake, when they see a rope, they start running.
Exactly. So that is why, the young man that was there, the footballer, that's why they didn't give him another chance. It's not for anything. Otherwise, the kind of followership he had, if he had performed,
he would have.
Yes.
So I know you've virtually seen it all in terms of party organizing, because of where you're coming from. What do you think about the conversation about independence candidates?
Well, it's an idealistic thing that I think you can't take away, because it's talking about democracy, isn't it? If somebody wants to try to become whatever he wants to become, you shouldn't allow the structures to be encumbrances, to become a stumbling block in his way to achieving his ambition. And if by allowing people to stand on their own, will fulfill, the individual's ambition, aspiration, as in the democracy itself, which is about allowing the individual to have freedom of association, then let it be. But you and me, we know that it's beyond, even in America, that you can say a lot of things have developed. People have become more independent-minded. They still get themselves, within the boundaries or of their political parties. They still have that influence in the political parties. So in Nigeria, it's good. I can't say no.
Abdul from Niger is asking Engineer Yabaji, say, how can the pervasive influence of political godfatherism be mitigated within Nigerian political parties to ensure that the most qualified and representative candidates emerge rather than those backed by powerful individuals?
Well, it's again, that's another issue that, like we have said, our state of development, in terms of independence, economic independence, is still at a very low stage. That is why people have to become other people's boys, some godfathers and things like that. So for us to be able to put that behind us, like I said, we need to build our economy, to grow this economy. And the economy that is of a lot of potential, opportunities are available for us to really grow this economy. All you need is leadership, informed leadership that has the empathy, that really believes in this country as one corporate entity, not looking at it from the perspective of, I'm this, I'm that, I practice this faith, this one, we should leave those things behind us. But the moment we can get somebody who will look at Nigeria as one corporate entity, that should be built, regardless of where somebody is coming from, you are given a seat at the table. I'm sure what he's talking about will become...
Rebecca from Abuja here is saying, how can civil society organizations effectively collaborate with political parties to implement reforms in internal reforms, ensuring that party operations are more transparent?
It's a very good question. I don't think they should go that way. Civil society groups are supposed to be pressure groups, not only on government but also on political parties. They should remain pressure groups, so that they can from that point of independence, they are not in any way, limited by the rules and regulations of the political party, for them to do things. They can come in maybe during elections. They can push their agenda through political parties, but they themselves are not supposed to be active players in politics as politicians.
But we can observe your processes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You'll be more at advantage. You can say things, you can talk about things, about the leadership, criticize constructively, ensure and then insist on things being done. But if you are part of the system itself and part of the organization, there's a limit to how much you can go.
Absolutely.
So that's why I would not support the idea of the civil society organizations getting into the politics.
No, but the question is about collaboration. Collaborate to ensure internal party reforms.
That's right. Yes.
That's the question they make.
Good. No, collaboration. Yes, and of course, political parties also want to have that collaboration, because through that you get more people. That's what the party is all about. Is how many people do you have in your party? If the civil society organizations like your policies, your structure, you are of course bound to get more people. Look at what happened to Labour. That's what happened, because Labour was seen as that organization, the structure, the platform that the civil society organizations could use to achieve their dream.
So a movement was created out of the party.
Exactly, a movement was created out of the
party. We are winding down. There is this conversation about political party registration and regulation commission, which is part of the unbundling of INEC suggestion that's been on, that INEC is carrying so much burden. Being yourself a party operative and a veteran of, political party administration, do you think that is something we need at this point?
Definitely, INEC and even they themselves will tell you that they are overburdened, by the sheer amount of, work that they have to do. But having said that, you also have to look at the fundamentals, which we have addressed here. The manner by which we appoint, the people that run
the national commissioners, the resident electoral commissioners, and
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in how many pieces you break the INEC into. If the man appointing them is also a participant in that election, it's difficult for them to come and tell the man that you lost the election. So we must go back to the basics, to the fundamentals. I'm not saying that idea is not a good one, because small is beautiful, isn't it? You will now have more efficient organization run. But fundamentally, you have to address the issue of who pays the piper. Who is this person, responsible to? Who is they accountable to?
Let's round off with the most touchy conversation for 2023 election. What role do you think technology will play in our future elections?
Well, I think we had everything. 2023 election, as far as technology is concerned. You have the beavers, you have the RF, and I think those two innovations were supposed to guarantee what you call free, fair, and credible elections. We are supposed to make sure that you have the most efficient, election processes, whereby time will become, something that will be utilized in a manner. Cost will be lower, and the results will be something that everybody will agree with. But what happened is the human beings, and we ourselves, like you kept saying, that the politicians are the ones. We, the politicians, we, the people of Nigeria, must reform, must have the consciousness of the fact that every little thing we do will affect the end result of the process itself. And that's what played out, in 2023.
Maybe I should close with the issue of electoral disputes, inter-party issues. Many times the conversation about the judiciary is not so much about the conduct of the elections. It's more about the behavior and misbehavior of the political parties themselves. How do you think we can eliminate some of these electoral disputes in the future?
Well, I think the way we can eliminate it is, one, if election disputes are settled, before somebody is sworn in. That is very fundamental in our climate, as the case is. Number two, if the Electoral Act itself is clear, like you are saying, you said it, that education about the law is very important to us, to the people, because you will see that during the when the process was going on, 2023 election, after the presidential election, most lawyers were surprised what the judges, came out with. The judges had one, they said, well, this is what the Act says. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you make sure you have all your beavers and everything, information? But it's not possible because these beavers are reconfigured, immediately after the elections. And in fact, that is even in the case of the presidential. In the case of the governorship, did they allow the beavers to even work, really? No, they didn't. They didn't allow beavers to work. The governors. That's why you had, in the case of the presidential, you had governors who were just contesting within their senatorial district lost the elections because Beavers worked. RF worked for those 2 elections. It was the presidential that didn't work. So the point is that if we allow the Beavers to work and the RF to work, maybe the cases of all these people going to court and what have you, perhaps
I'm talking about the conduct of elections. I have the statistics. The conduct of elections itself constitute about 20%. Most of it are internal things that come from Plateau, for instance, had more to do with what people did. Kano had what people did, not so much about the conduct, not IREV, not so. The question is internal. I understand the other part. What can we do? But we are running out of time. But I hope you can just take a few minutes to address that.
What we can do is for people to now learn from the past that you can't get away. That if you run foul of the law, you are going to pay dearly. That's what has come out from the experience in Plateau, the experience in Rivers, the experience in Zamfara. What happened? Even in Kano and other places.
And what's playing out most likely in Edo,
what will also play out in Edo. So which means the politicians, we are now coming to the reality that yes, you may do what you want, but you can't get away.
I wish we had so much time. A special thanks to our guest, Engineer Yabaji Yusuf Sani. It's been a very interesting conversation. To our dear listener, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Electoral Reform Hour, brought to you by PPRRC Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, with support from Macarthur Foundation. After this show, if you have any questions, you can reach out via text or WhatsApp on 081-6808-3424. We especially appreciate the contributions of our founders, Macarthur Foundation, our engineers, our engineer today, Christy Ankeli and Adeyemi Solomon, and the ICT personnel is Mohammed Sani, studio manager Finihas Udoeyo, and Andohemba Onhain. And that's the producer. The supervisor today is Hussein Akila MNI. The facilitating crew members are Abu Grace and Jeremiah Ume, my colleagues. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.